According to Webster's dictionary, the definition of a free thinker is someone inclined to form their own opinions rather than depending upon authority, exhibiting boldness of speculation and skeptical of authority, especially about social and religious issues. Furthermore, as a free thinker, I do not limit my free thought to only religious and religious-related matters. Instead, I choose to broaden the definition to include politics, economics, and societal matters in general. In this video, I'm going to provide you with compelling evidence so that you can connect the dots. And remember, the truth is often obscured by those in authority in order to keep the masses ignorant and compliant. All right, so we live. So first of all, I want to welcome anybody watching this video for the first time. Free Thought channel. One of the goals of my channel is not just to promote free thought as it relates to religion, but also to politics, economics, and anything that involves the human condition. The panel that I have tonight is going to include me, along with my brother, Kansu. And Kansu, before I get started, man, I want to make this disclosure to anybody that may be watching any of my videos for the first time. We're not black Republicans. So let me just make that clear. This is not in any way some type of subversive effort by the right wing to get black folks or liberals or anybody else to think that somehow this is an opportunity to bash Democrats, liberals, or anybody that may be opposing the conservative right-wing agenda or movement in this country, right? We are, for the most part, I can speak for myself. I'm a black man in America, recognizing my condition, my history, my situation. I'm American, without a doubt, African American, but understanding where I'm at and what I have to do in relationship to the environment that I was born in. But Brother Kansu, if you wanted to just add on to that, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that. But I think it's important that we say that to get started.
Yes, sir, Mike. It's an honor and a pleasure. And to the audience, please forgive me as I'm a bit under the weather. I'm a public speaker, and this is a casualty that comes sometimes with the territory. So forgive me as my voice is out, but I'm still dedicated to expounding on some aspects of political science that's important to us. And I do echo the statements of my brother Mike as he eloquently placed it. No, I'm not a black Republican. By no means. I do represent a American African that understands the republic of being a black man in America. So I'm not a Republican by no means.
Thank you, brother, for saying that. In terms of credentials, I think it's also important to mention because, you know, I don't know how far you want to go into it, Brother Kansu, but I can speak for myself in saying that in 2012, you know, I represented a group of people in the county that I reside in Georgia, that brought back the Democratic Party, resurrected, if you will, and I held the position of chairman in the Democratic Party in this county, in the state of Georgia, for about 2.5 to 3 years before giving up that office. So if that adds any credentials, if you will, of where I'm coming from, I think it's appropriate in this circumstance because what I'm going to talk about is what the mainstream media has not discussed. There's a few outlets here and there, and I'll point those out that have hinted on the topic that we will go in tonight, but nobody has done any extensive research on the subject matter. The title of the show tonight is The Clinton-Trump Conspiracy, right? So before I even go into that, let me explain and espouse on the word conspiracy. According to Webster's dictionary, the word conspiracy is as follows. I'm going to paraphrase this. It's when a group of individuals, two or more, come together to do an act that is either illegal, immoral, or unethical. And I think that tonight we will show that that not only exists, but it is overwhelming evidence for a conspiracy regarding the Clintons and Donald Trump. Brother, did you want to add anything to that?
Most definitely. Um, we can see um, the finance issues that mar our political structure. And me being in that sector and studying political sciences for the past 20 years, um, and have also played a role for the Democratic Party in 2009 for the Obama campaign um, in Gary, Indiana, where we actually won for the first time in 30 years at that time um, the Democratic vote in a predominantly Republican area for Barack Obama and carried his vote at that particular time. We actually all received citations, and watching the remnants of the original Clinton and Perot um, financial movements that actually gave way to Barack Obama becoming president. And I don't want to put a conspiracy theorem out there, but the theorem is quite valid if one studies the construct actions of these parties and why they appear isolated and separate to the public.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Just to add, and I'm going to end it on this note. This is an article um, which shows myself here locally in the party. Can you see that, brother? Is that coming in clear enough?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This was back in 2012 when we had got started and made some inroads, elected the first African American female Democrat to come out of this region of Georgia. And then you see me, big bald head and bow tie and all, representing the Democratic Party in the county that I live in. All right, so let's get right into the information. Without further ado, now that we've got some housekeeping out the way, so here it is, right? As a matter of fact, let me do this because that is not a good representation of what I want to present tonight. This would be a better one. Let's see here. All right. All right, so I hope that's visible on the screen. It's an image of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Can you see that, brother?
Yes, I can.
All right. So the Clinton-Trump conspiracy, what does it all mean? Are we on to anything? I think we are. Um, Not too long ago, particularly there was a tweet put out in December of 2015 that involved Jeb Bush. And this tweet was really at the beginning of the political primary process. And Brother Kansu, chime in at any time that you want to interject and express your opinion.
Sure.
But he,
Sure.
Jeb Bush, actually indicated in his tweets that he thought that Donald Trump was basically a straw man or a false flag or Trojan horse, whatever word you want to give it, uh, in the process, and that he was working to put his buddy Hillary Clinton in the White House. Did you see this, Brother Consul?
Actually, this is the very first time I've ever seen this. Very first time.
Okay. Yeah, he said it. And, him along with a few of the other candidates alluded to it. Rand Paul, they talked about it. So that's an example of this conspiracy that we're talking about. Now, here's a bombshell. It's a bombshell because how many people can say they honestly heard of this? Donald Trump got a call from Bill Clinton before he announced his candidacy. This article appeared in Time magazine, and this was in August of 2015. So 9 months to a year ago, they were discussing openly the fact that these two individuals had a phone call right before he announced presidency, he being Donald Trump, with the former president, Bill Clinton. Did you see this article, brother? Did you hear any rumblings up in your neck of the woods?
Yes, I heard rumblings about it, and I did read this to a degree. I did. Yes.
Cool. Now, for those that don't know, they have a long history, the Trumps and the Clintons. So much so that here's a photo here at their wedding. They being Donald Trump and I think her name is Melania Trump now. They got married in 2005 in Palm Beach, Florida. And there you see the happy couple with their friends and fellow conspirators, Bill and Hillary Clinton. And they're getting along just great. And I don't know if anybody notices how Bill got his hand on Melania over there. But I don't know if I would let Bill hug my wife like that. What about you?
No, sir.
And it looks like Trump kind of checked him in his next photo. I don't know if you see that. Don't be touching my wife, my newlywed wife. But who knows what they said. Point is, they are showing if nothing else, a relationship. It wasn't just a photo op at this juncture. All right, so here's another photo. Just in case you were thinking that, Mike just pulled a photo out that was just, swimming around the internet. These guys are golfing buddies. There you see Trump on the far right of the screen and Clinton on the far left, hanging out playing golf. Another golfing photo, also displaying relationships between the two individuals. Now this is, oftentimes, Kansu, I think you would agree, the general public don't realize how the political class in this country really, really get down. You got in this picture a businessman, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, former Democratic president, two-term, the former mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, an independent, and then the other former mayor of New York, a Republican, Rudy Giuliani. Now, brother, come on, you got to comment on that.
Your mic went out just a bit. Repeat what you just said, because I was literally going to say something, and you said, I know you want to comment, but you said something, and I didn't hear.
What I said was that this is an example of the political class.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what party affiliation is. You have Giuliani, a Republican, former Republican mayor. You have Michael Bloomberg, the former independent mayor of New York City, and you have Bill Clinton, the former two-term president, Democrat, all in a picture with a businessman, Donald Trump. This is an example of the political class in this country. It doesn't matter what party you are. It matters your influence. And this is the club, and most Americans are not in this club.
And that's exactly, Mike, when you threw the image out here, that's what hit me, was classism and the lack of really understanding the science of politics and socialism in America, and not really understanding small things like electoral colleges or financial pooling when it comes to our actual governmental structure. And this is a powerful image for those of us who are aficionados in the political world. This picture speaks 1,000 words, literally. If anybody knows anything about politics, you see this, and you gotta just say, wow.
That's right. That's right. Because, you know, this was talked about obviously, you know, about 3 or 4 months ago that Bloomberg was thinking about getting in the race. You remember that?
Yes.
So you got the wife of a former president, Hillary Clinton, going against the Republican presumptuous, I'm saying this wrong, potential nominee of the Republican Party, Donald Trump,
right,
against Michael Bloomberg of Independent. I mean, think about that. I mean, you know, all coming out of the same base, New York State. Wow, look at the relationship there. So, and then you got a former mayor of New York that also ran for president. You know, but, you know, it's weird when you talk about conspiracies, and that's why I gave the disclosure when we first started this, brothers. You know, a block club can get together and plan a barbecue, right? A small group of bikers can get together and plan a dance or something, right? But rich, powerful people who control millions of dollars and thousands of people, they don't plan stuff. Really? That's what we're supposed to believe? We're supposed to eat that right on up? And, you know, I like to throw that out there because this is a clear example of rich, powerful people getting together, you know, just playing golf. They're not doing anything. They're just friendly game of golf. They wouldn't dare talk about politics, right? they wouldn't dare plan for the future or discuss what has been done and what will be done. All right, I don't want to get too caught up in that, but I just wanted to point that out. This is another picture, and this picture speaks so highly, and you could probably speak to this a lot, brother, coming out of the town you come in. This is Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, with Donald Trump in the 80s. And for those that don't know, one of the early endorsements that Jesse Jackson got was from Donald Trump.
Correct.
When he ran. Isn't it ironic that, you know, Donald Trump has not gotten any heat from the black community civil rights elite? I mean, we got black people getting punched in the face at events in Chicago. Did I mention that? Yeah. Hold on, brother. Stop the presses. Listen, did y'all just not have a rally for Donald Trump where it got shut down in Chicago, the home of Reverend Jesse Jackson, and he didn't say a word? Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, that brother standing all the way to the left is his son, who is now serving time.
Right.
And of course, all the way to the right is the youngest son.
Wow. And I think this brother here standing next to him, is that Ron Brown's son?
Yes, it is.
And for those that don't know, Ron Brown, the former chairman of the Democratic Party, you got the political establishment right here.
Yes.
At least a good portion of it as it relates to the black community in one photo with a man who's regarded as a racist, a bigot, a demagogue. Hell, MSNBC tonight, they refer to him as potentially the new Adolf Hitler.
And that is far. And it's funny, I actually have this picture. The face that's cut off next to Trump is Don King.
Ah, you're right. I noticed the hair.
And unbeknownst to a lot of people, I'll put it this way, and I mean we putting it out here like we're supposed to. So I'm gonna say this, you know, you go to the laundromat to clean a lot of things. you go to the laundromat and you got to clean dirty clothes.
That's right.
And Jesse Jackson's laundromat stays open 24 hours a day. I'll say
I
that.
think I know where you're going.
Yes, sir.
I think I know where you're going. All right, let's keep going with these photos. Does anybody recognize the perm? Only one man in the Northeast got a perm like that. Reverend Al Sharpton, another absentee brother in the civil rights movement. He hasn't said anything about Trump. I wonder why. Wonder why. Why do we allow, brother, Kansu, why do we allow so many of our leaders to get away with this nonsense? I mean, with no accountability. This man has a radio show that I rarely listen to because I really can't focus long enough because of the way he talks. I won't go there. TV show. How many people have held him accountable for the fact that he was good friends? I mean, look at the way Donald Trump is holding his hand. It's almost passionate. You see that?
Yes, I see that. It's quite obvious.
I mean, man. Not a peep. Nothing.
Well, there's a bit of comfortability between all three individuals. He seemed very relaxed and comfortable.
Right.
And let you know that that there's a lot more to the obvious. And in our communities, a lot of it is the system of white supremacy.
That's right.
The mere fact that to be astute of a thing is often shunned in the black community.
Right.
So politics rings such a negative connotation because it was superimposed into the Revolutionary War. And once Jamestown, Virginia became established in the 1800s, which was the beginning of black indentured slavery, after the advent of white indentured slavery, politics has always been something that has marred us. Right. And we don't realize it's ingrained in us internally because we don't look at the fact that we are dealing with a lot of white indentured slaves who were paid as servants while we weren't, and we were given lifetime contracts of labor. And how that misinformation has been passed along into the political sector, and now it's been broken into corporate parties. And we do not see the oligarchical structure of the military or geopolitical military complex.
Wow.
And we don't see that in our communities because as black people, we are already socially programmed to only have a certain level of aptitude.
Right.
So, again, you're putting some really pragmatic images, especially if you look at the circa and date. If you date these pictures, the date alone and the time of the events when they happen speaks volumes to our history and politics.
That's a good point. Excellent point. And you know what? I was listening attentively to what you said, and I really appreciate the fact that you referenced Jamestown, Virginia, and our servitude in this country as kidnap victims. Because when you put it as kidnap victims, you understand that there was a crime and there is a criminal. But when we were, emancipated, so to speak, the black preacher was given the charge of our community. And I don't think it's a ironic that both of these two individuals here, Jesse and Al, are in fact black preachers.
That's right. Oh my goodness, that's deep.
Come on, man. The elite, that establishment. And until we, as a community, stop accepting who the establishment, our former oppressors, stop accepting who they give us as leaders, who they tell us who our leaders are. Until we stop doing that, our condition will never change.
Yes.
And you got two individuals here that are are advocates of the gospel. And, what has that done for our community in 150 years? But I don't want to digress. I don't want to turn anybody off. I just want you to think for a minute. Think about what you're looking at. The two most powerful, politically influential preachers in the entire country are holding hands and huddled together with what MSNBC and other stations have called one of the most racist, what's the term they use? Xenophobic. What am I pronouncing it right?
Yes.
Yeah, this guy embodies what. Listen, when it comes to being a dog whistle for individuals in this country who ascribe to racism and white supremacy, Donald Trump is the poster child.
Yes.
And he is using every opportunity he can to engage those people who are white supremacists and racists in this country. And look who he's huddled up with. So anyway, I don't want to digress too much, but let's go on back to this Clinton-Trump conspiracy. Oh, sorry, more images. Had to bring it up. Look at him smiling. This is when he had a few pounds on him. Your boy Al.
Yes.
Smiling away. Trump Casino, I guess he was hanging out. And what is a preacher doing in the casino anyway, man?
It's interesting. It's interesting. You asked that right. It's funny. Why would he be in a casino?
Why would he be in a casino? Why would preachers be hanging out in casinos and boxing matches and all? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe that's what they usually do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But again, Donald Trump, in the tradition of Wallace and his segregationist attitude, has declared war on immigrants, has declared war on basically every demographic in the country, including women, is here huddled up, smiling with one of the leading black liberals in the country. But not a word from Al Sharpton about Donald Trump and all his recent activities. Not a word.
Wow.
So, well, to put this thing in context, and Brother Kansu, oftentimes, like you indicated earlier, people's lack of knowledge concerning history is what gets us in trouble. And, before the call, you and I talked about Ross Perot. And it was a brief conversation, but people who know politics, who are in touch with understanding politics and how things have evolved, understand that for the most part, there's nothing new under the sun, right? So to speak. But here's a classic example of that. Bill Clinton in '92. Now, granted, I am not suggesting that him and Ross Perot got together, two country boys, and decided that they was going to run against, really, the Bushes are carpetbaggers. They're really from like Connecticut, right? You do know that, right, brother? Mm-hmm. They was never original Texans to start with. But all right, so two country boys, Ross Perot and Bill Clinton, got together and decided that they were going to run for office. I'm not saying that was the laydown. I'm not saying that. I'm not suggesting that. But isn't it ironic that we're facing the same scenario, right, in 2016, where a Republican potential nominee has not only suggested, but he has threatened, I'm talking about Donald Trump, to run as a third-party independent candidate if he is denied the nomination of the Republican Party in Cleveland. Wow. Think about that. Mm. And if you look at the vote count and the breakdown, clearly, and political historians will tell you this, that Ross Perot didn't take any votes from Bill Clinton. He took them all from George Bush. And if this scenario breaks out again, we can expect the same outcome. Wouldn't you agree, brother?
Yes, most definitely. It's quite obvious.
And isn't it obvious that they're both independently wealthy?
And it's not the wealthy, it's the independent part that is really important to know.
Right.
The independently wealthy people, they've created their own commonwealths
Right.
and have hidden and protected themselves in tax deferment.
Right.
Very important.
Right.
I totally agree.
So you got a billionaire in 1992 who decides to run for office. Just so happens he splits the Republican Party. Let me also reiterate again, just for those that may have not caught the first part, which was about 20 minutes ago or so. I am not a black Republican. Brother Kansu is not a black Republican. we have record. We're on record. We have credentials with the Democratic Party. And we are pointing out this information to just show the public and anybody that might be listening that it's obvious for those that know history what is really going on here, and how the media is spinning it. But we've seen this playbook before. But we're not Republicans. We ain't advocating nobody. At least I know I'm not.
Mike, can I make a comment? Can I make?
Yeah. Go ahead, brother.
When we say Democratic Party, and I'll speak for me, and I believe Mike will echo my statement here, we are not talking about the general Democratic corporate entity. That's not what we're talking about. We are talking about the Republic of Black people coming from the antebellum period of the United States during the 500 years of slavery that we went through as private republic citizens that created a democratic structure that was geared toward the democracy amongst black people and black people only, who did not promote integrationism. We actually agreed in separatism. We wanted to stay away from both of them, the Northerners and the Southerners. We really didn't want anything to do with them. And we need to dispel the thought that we were some ignorant African people, because by the time the Revolutionary War hit, we outnumbered the indigenous African 3-1. And in Jamestown, Virginia, we outnumbered almost 4-1 white and indentured slaves. So we want to make it clear that we were always conscious, forward-thinking people. Now we are a republic in the way that we operate socially and politically within our heritage, our culture. As we operate in commerce in this geopolitical oligarchy, we adopt democratic global matters because we must think Pan-Africanism on a global scale. The American African has no individual interest to want to move to Africa. That would be genocide for an American African.
That's right.
I am not a descendant of a slave. I'm a descendant of an African ancestor. However, my ancestors have settled here and built this land. And because blood is shed here, this is now my home. And I own it and belong to it. So I am a Pan-African, American African. Because the Pan-African movement has always been global. It has never been confined to a space, because white supremacy controls Africa too. So don't get it twisted.
That's right.
So I just wanted to make that clear, Mike, because you're saying so many powerful things, and people will think we talking about elephants and donkeys. We're talking about that. When we say Democratic Party, when you black and Democratic, you speaking to your black people.
That's right.
So I just wanted to make that clear, brother. Go ahead.
That's right. No, those are all good points, man. They need to be said, because oftentimes when we deal with issues like this one, people may get the wrong impression about what we really represent at the end of the day. So I'm glad that you were able to clarify where we stand in terms of our people and in terms of our struggle, because it doesn't end. I mean, anybody that studies Reconstruction in this country will see that we had former kidnap victims, former slaves, rise up to positions of high rank and power.
That's right.
Throughout the South within a few years after slavery.
That's right.
So that should in itself indicate that we were a people even when we weren't even considered a people.
Yep.
We would have bounced back and take positions of authority in government, senators and governors in Louisiana and Mississippi and South Carolina. And then, we know about Jim Crow. We know about the Klan. We know how they came in to crush that. We know about how they cut deals in D.C. to cut us out. And then all the way up to the 1960s, where you had, black Republicans switching to Democrat because, the Kennedy boys saw it as being expedient to get a black man out of jail. So there's a long history. There's a long history. And without digressing too much, I am so happy to have you on this call, man, to really bring all that to a head, because I don't want to get lost in this particular topic with anyone who might be out there thinking that it's something that it's not. So
that's right.
The 1992, we saw Bill Clinton pull off the same scheme. Now, you know what? Let me say this, because I don't want to get caught up too much in innuendo speculation. I don't know if he was responsible for Ross Perot getting in the race. I don't know that to be a fact. I do know that it worked out to his benefit.
Sure did.
And it's ironic. It's very, very ironic that you have, 8 and 16, 24, 25 years later, we have a very similar situation about to occur. Just ironic, just a coincidence, in the form of a billionaire who will potentially run as an independent and get another Clinton into the White House. So, just a coincidence. All right, moving right along. So, are me and my brother just talking outside of our head, or have we just lost it? Or have elements of the mainstream media also been talking about this? Well, it seems like they have. MSNBC, in fact, same period of time, July of 2015, who did they bring up? Ross Perot myth, reborn, right? Admit rumors of a third-party Trump candidacy. So this is not something isolated. This is not some crazy theory. Trust me, the political insiders are talking about this. It's buzzing. And you got Republicans that are probably extremely upset that Bill was able to pull this off, right? Again. And you got, and it's almost like, I don't know, brother, what your background is in terms of where you grew up. But when I grew up, it was the hood. And I had some cousins and some uncles that was hustlers, and they would sit around and talk about running con. I don't know if you know what running con is, Brother Counsel.
Oh, yeah.
One of the ways young men would get money in the hood is, you might stick a couple bricks or a very large rock in a box and tape it up and tell somebody it's a VCR. And take all their money because they think they didn't got electronic for nothing. Right, which my grandfather would say, if somebody think they're getting something from nothing, they kind of deserve to get what they got. But point is, I think the Republicans are actually embarrassed that they have fallen for this trick, if in fact our theory is right. And that's the reason why they haven't made such light of it, except for a few like Jeb Bush and Rand Paul. Because imagine being tricked a second time. I mean, by the same guy. You know what I mean? So
that's right.
I mean that I give analogies like that because that's basically what I understand. That's what I identify with from my past. But the fact of the matter is, this is the long con, right? This is the Trojan Horse. This is what political insiders do and have done, and I think they got the Republicans again by pulling this one off. All right, we move right on. Now, in 1992, in addition to talking about everything that happened with Ross Perot, he actually dropped out of the race. He dropped out of the race in July, fired his campaign staff, according to this this article here, and said that he was getting out. Now, he got out because he felt that he was being threatened by the Bush campaign and the Republican establishment, so he got out of the race. And then subsequently he got back in, But the point is, the damage was done. At that point, he had a huge following. He had a majority of people in the country following him who
Mhm.
considered themselves independents. And, it was done. Bush was out, Clinton was in. Do you recall this as well, brother, when he dropped out of the race from all the threats?
Yes, yes, I do. I do.
Very intriguing. And,
It was a
the
big
other,
shot.
the other thing about these topics that we're discussing is sometimes we can get so clouded, right, with everything that the media tells us that we should pay attention to. And some of the topics are important, but a lot of it is nonsense. The internet allows you the ability to do research on so many topics. I mean, it's a point and click kind of thing. And if you have an interest, I would really encourage anybody out there to please do your research. It's not that difficult anymore. You pull up articles, you can pull up, different topics on different events and really get a basic understanding of what's going on in the world of politics, which leads me to the last point from our brother, our ancestor, Malcolm X. And Malcolm said, of all of our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. And when we see that you've got problems, all you have to do is examine the historic method used all over the world by others who have problems similar
Hmm.
to yours. And once you see how they got theirs straight, then you know how you can get yours straight. Now, this is talking about, I mean, we can fit this quote into any circumstance, but in this particular circumstance, we can invoke the name of Lumumba. We can talk about Salvatore Allende. We can talk about Mohammed Mossadegh. We can talk about all the leaders all over the world and how the government came in and basically, had a regime change in a covert sort of way and made things happen politically. The point is, when you know this information, when you are familiar with history, when you have a thorough understanding of the world we live in, you can better see what's coming in front of you. And brother, I want you to have an opportunity to comment on that because I know you have a lot of insight historically on what has happened around the world.
Well, yeah, yes, sir. I'll make it brief out of respect for the fantastic job that you're doing right now. Um, the technical abstract um, deduction and reasoning that you're using to express a common day problem. This kind of reminds me of some of the work that Dr. Amos Wilson had exemplified in his book, Black Power. Uh, if you look at the passage that the brother Michael was eloquently placed, one thing that set Malcolm X apart was that he knew that eventually, him being a black revolutionary, to maintain his blackness, he would have to get above his blackness. And he spoke so far ahead of his kind that he became an isolated martyr, similar to a Marcus Garvey,
Mm,
who was an educated Ethiopian bloodline black man that came by way of the Caribbean islands.
right.
And if you look at the passage here, the key statement is historic method. The methodology of historical research is a key factor in understanding the social constructs and political developments of any ethnic group throughout history. The artifacts and the major benchmarks mean absolutely nothing without understanding the methodology that relates to the actual people, because the people develop constructs and byproducts. So you have to examine a people to truly get an understanding of history. It's the history of people. That's what history is about. And that's very, very important because when we get into politics, we are talking about people.
Right.
That is very important. And the systematic control of people socially And once you control the people socially by controlling their resources, you can then force them to place political constructs within that controlled social environment. Some people call it Hegelian dialectic. A lot of people don't like that theory because they think that it's conspiratory at best. I tend to disagree. That the Hegelian dialectic works extremely well as it forces you to create political diversions against your own kind for appeared social classism. So that and so very powerful piece, Michael. I'm gonna have to digress.
Well, brother, no, you didn't. Everything is relevant and has its place, and I'm just thankful and grateful that you were able to get on this call tonight. But before we leave, I want to do a couple things. One, well, actually three things. Thank you, brother Kansu, for coming on, for sharing your expertise, and for talking about this subject. And I want to do more shows pertaining to politics as this election progresses, because I mean, I don't have a an hourglass, not an hourglass, a crystal ball to see exactly what's going to happen here. But again, if you understand history, sometimes it gives you the ability, sometimes, not all the time, to see what is actually playing out in the future, or will play out in the future. The second thing I want to do is encourage people to pick up some reading material. So now, this is a very small book. You can see how thin it is. But it's Machiavelli, The Prince. It is Politics 101. It's one of the first books that I read and was recommended to me early on in my political exposure as a young man. It's set in the Renaissance age, the principalities of Italy, in the 14th and 15th century, but it's good reading material to give you a basic understanding of politics. Also, Sun Tzu, timeless material. You can get it in any form, or written by, or not really written, but really translated by anybody. But please pick up this book, The Art of War. You understand the basic principles of politics, you need to understand the art of war. And back to the point about us not being young black Republicans. I have to bring this book up. George Bush and his crew of cronies, they stole two elections, not just one. One in 2000, another one in 2004 by stealing Ohio. This is a report actually, by John Conyers with an introduction by Gore Vidal. Pick up this book. Understand what it means when they steal elections in this country. So I'm not giving my hats off to Bill Clinton, because at least he didn't come out and outright steal an election, with a gun pointed at you. But man, he's slick Willie. The last point I want to make is, look, this channel doesn't exist because we got a whole lot of funding, we got some money. None of that exists. But what I do ask is that you subscribe, that you become a regular subscriber to the Free Thought channel. That is my ask. Please subscribe to the channel tonight. Become a member. Look for more videos. Look for more deep conversations. With my guest tonight, Brother Kansu, and we're going to discuss more subjects and keep you all educated in the breast. And brother, I'm going to give you the last word.
Much appreciated. I just would like to say that I'm very humble, and I appreciate the opportunity to diversify the message to all our black people out there. I do. This means a lot. And I appreciate the work that the brother Michael is putting in to help broaden the spectrum and the thought of our black people, because we all are capable people, and we do not have to be intimidated by what appears to be a big deal. It's not. It's common people doing common things against oppressed and repressed people. When you are oppressed and repressed, we deal with psychological issues. Black brothers and sisters, we are psychologically embattled, and we have to brick by brick change our psychological concept of who we are. And I appreciate the brother Michael uncovering the veils and dealing with our history in a very respectful manner that I believe our ancestors would be proud of. So I appreciate it, Michael, and it was a pleasure this evening. And I look forward to future endeavors with you, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. You have a good night. And again, click the button in the right corner. Subscribe to the Free Thought channel. We need your support. And thank you. Thank you for watching. Have a good night, brother. Peace.